The reason we record these sessions so that people who want to be here to hear this material but can't make this particular time can go to our website, www.fsp.org, and go to the archives. We have all our lunch and learns there, and there's recordings and the slides and Q&As from every lunch and learn, and we will do that for this one. I know Pamela just said she can't stay for the whole time, and so Pamela, you can catch the rest of it on the recording, and that'll be good. But we're glad all of you are here for the live version. And again, I just want to introduce Jesika Harper, Vice President of AgVision at AgWest's Farm Credit. If you have questions while she's talking, just put them in the chat. We'll be sure to get to them as soon as she's done with her presentation part, or we can, save them up and do them verbally as soon as she's done. And let's get started with Jesika. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself and get going? Thanks.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and look forward to questions as we wrap up. So thank you so much for having me on the call today. And I love talking about AgVision. It's a program near and dear to my heart, and one that I get to focus on in my role here at AgWest. So I appreciate the opportunity. So some goals that we have today, just to kind of level set where we hope to cover, is who is AgWest Farm Credit? For those of you that might not be familiar with our cooperative, and what loan programs do we offer? Actually, as an ag lender, there's a number of different things that we can help our producers with that they might not be familiar with. And that's one of our big goals for today. And then specifically thinking about this program we have called AgVision, how does AgWest Farm Credit help young, beginning, and small producers? So AgVision is the title of a program that's designed specifically to help our young, beginning, and small farmers and ranchers. So before we dive into that, I just wanted to kind of do an introduction of myself so you know who you're talking with. So my name is Jesika Harper. I'm actually office here in Spokane, Washington, where our headquarters is located. And we're just up by the airport. I grew up on a small family operation. My parents actually had a small cherry and peach farm and orchard. And we had a farm stand, and then actually we would grow all of our own fruit. I was an employee of the small family farm, and we would actually travel over to Coeur d'Alene back in the day and sell our produce at a farm stand there as well on the weekends. So I think about our farmers market producers, our folks with farm stands that we do business with, and their kids that are helping them on their operations in those cases. And I think about how I grew up, and I'm just so happy to be working in this space. I went to college in Denver, actually, studied business there. But while I was there, and shortly after graduation, had an opportunity to work for ConAgra in Cargill, which is way different than what I do today. But actually, I think they're, in hindsight, I'm so grateful for those opportunities because they taught me a lot. I think I've got a good perspective about what our small family farms and mid-sized family farms have to offer our local communities and building food systems, and the importance of the strength in those operations, and got to see on the larger side, how agribusiness works and the logistics of that and some of the tools that they use to be successful. So I think that that's been helpful, but was very happy to make the change and get to focus on what I'm doing today. I've been with AgWest Farm Credit now for almost 12 years. And I've always worked in agriculture growing up, like I said, on a family farm. Being able to stay in that industry has been just table stakes for me. And so I've always worked in ag, and happy that what I get to do today serves a wide swath of agriculture. And then just for fun, I'm a Gallup certified strengths coach. That's something that is important to us at Farm Credit. And so I get to use that with our employees and our customers sometimes. So these are just some fun photos, fun for me. Those are my kids when they were little. Gosh, they're, in their early 20s now, but we've always raised a big garden. I've got a family homestead of my own. My husband and I used the EQIP program to install a nice high tunnel this year. And so that's us as the proud parents of our high tunnel, which is now filled with a whole bunch of things that we'll have hopefully all the way through, this winter. And then there, lastly, is a picture of us on a ranch that's a veteran operated ranch in Montana up near White Sulphur. I'm helping some folks that we know gather up their cows. And that's me on my mule Palmer, who's the Palomino. So like I said, agriculture is really important to me, and I love getting to work in this industry. So as an organization, as I mentioned, we're a cooperative, and I think that that is definitely worth mentioning because the folks that we report to, our shareholders, are our customers, and a lot of those folks are young, beginning, and small farmers. And so, we know who runs things and their lives that they live in the field and how successful they are and what they want and need to continue those family farms, is top of mind for us every day. So when we think about what we do, we champion agriculture by serving as the most trusted resource, helping our customers, employees, and communities thrive. And so, when I think about Western Washington Food Systems Partnership, I love this work that they do that's so collaborative because it helps share information and just build synergies between all of us that are trying to make our local landscape for ag and food a better place. We have been around for a very long time. We're a part of the farm credit system, which actually is in every state in the nation. And some people don't know that, but we were formed by Congress over 100 years ago. And the reason why that's important is all that we do is help agriculture. And that provides a level of permanence with that focus on food and fiber because we're with our customers through thick and thin. We understand that ag cycles and we're prepared to go through those transitions through these different cycles. And we're so blessed with the crop diversity that we have in the Pacific Northwest and the West that it provides a really robust agriculture. When we think about all the different things that we can grow here, it just makes it a really fun industry to be involved with. And, some people don't think about it, but, we work with a lot of folks that are in the fisheries space, a lot of people that are managing timber, and those are an important part of agriculture as well. In terms of our service territory, we cover the states of Alaska and Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, the entirety of those states. And then we also cover, as you can see here on our map, quite a few counties in California, Nevada, and most of Arizona. So I included an online directory, but for all of us in Washington, just know that there is an AgWest's farm credit in many of the cities there that are on the map. And then on our website too, we've got a branch locator, but I've got my contact information that I'll be sharing. So if you have any unique questions to you that, you want to go and find somebody in particular based on what you're working on, I'd encourage you to reach out to me directly. So I wanted to provide just a little bit of an overview on what the organization as a whole, kind of our ethos and things that we do before we dive into program specific things through AgVision. So we have a group called the Business Management Center that is a whole group of folks that focus on education. We know that it's critically important that our producers understand how to run the financial side of their operation and manage their businesses. And in doing so, we host on a very regular basis both in-person and online education. So, when I think about where people generally tend to start with us, on our website, we've got a section under the Business Management Center and Education for preparing financial statements. And it's just a 1-hour e-learning or a recording that folks can access from their phone, their computer, and at home. And they can, for an hour, watch and learn how to prepare a cash flow budget. And it's got templates on it. Same thing for balance sheets and income statements. And we know in working with beginning farmers and folks that are, not used to this type of cash flow budget management, things like that, that it's intimidating. There's, words that they're not as familiar with, or people are super busy and it's hard to find the time to do this, but we know after having done this for a very long time that those producers that make the time to keep good financial management records and pay attention to those details are more sustainable and successful in the long run. And so we really emphasize the importance of education. And if you go out to our website, you can see different things that you can subscribe to. We've got industry teams that focus on certain commodities, and we provide economic updates. And then we also provide family business resources for those who might have operations that are like a next generation scenario where, there's transitions taking place on the farm. And we also provide a lot of stewardship too. I mentioned in our purpose in the beginning that building stronger communities is a very important part of what we do. And as a result of that, we have very intentional giving around our local communities. And on our website for nonprofits, we've got a rural community grant. It's a grant that, if you work with a nonprofit and you're interested, you should definitely check it out. We've got details there on how to apply. We also provide strong support for food banks because we want to make sure that our local communities have, food and quality food to eat. We provide scholarships both for employees, customers, and people in our communities. And we have a great relationship with the Farmer Veteran Coalition and other veteran-related organizations to help ensure that they're providing resources to their constituency to ensure that they're successful in their various endeavors. And youth is a huge part of our focus too, through things like 4-H and FFA, a group called Manners, many more, but making sure that the kiddos have got good things where they're at. And also our rural community grants rolls up through that too. We provide a lot of support for kids' playgrounds, their school programs, their sports programs. So that I just wanted you to have kind of a good understanding of, we're far more than just a bank. We're wanting to make sure that our communities are strong too. So pivoting to AgVision, as I introed with, my role here at AgWest's Farm Credit is to be a champion for our young beginning and small producers through this program we have called AgVision. And we've had AgVision for quite a long time. When I think back on how it's evolved in, the past, especially, 3 to 5 years, or even, since COVID, I'm just so inspired by the ingenuity and the passion of our producers that we work with, because they went through some really challenging times, pivoted their operations. And I think that there's a stronger appreciation now for local food growers than there probably ever was before COVID. Speaking with folks that are customers in this area, they said things to me like, gosh, for the first time, I am booked out, sold out, I'm producing all I can, and it's spoken for. And they just felt, so appreciated for what they have to offer. And we've not seen that slow down, thankfully. So it's been fun to work in this space. In terms of, who is a young beginning or small producers, I included some definitions there for you, but to be a part of this program, a person only needs to meet one of these criteria. And, we see a lot of people that they just want to be a small farmer for life. And we love that. They have a work-life balance and a lifestyle that they want to approach that has got great meaning in their communities. And we love that too. And so we see people that graduate out of AgVision. Maybe they exceed all 3 of these categories over time. And that's fine. That's for them. And we see other people that love being a local food producer at a smaller level that's sustainable for maybe their own family. They don't want to have, employees and the complexities of all of that. And AgVision has got kind of different levers that we can pull for producers at a number of different phases of where they're at in their business life cycle. So when we think about what this program offers, there's it's kind of like a toolbox, and inside of that toolbox, there's a whole bunch of things in it because everyone is different, and every operation, their needs are different. And so this is just kind of a high level overview of what is entailed in AgVision. We offer waived fees for things like origination and appraisal. And people maybe don't think about that in the beginning, but most lenders charge fees for things like this. We have an internal appraisal staff, which is great because it helps us meet timelines with getting appraisals done, because we've got those folks on staff that we can, call and say, hey, when can you get this done? As opposed to trying to, seek external appraisals. And sometimes there's situations where we have to do that. But at any rate, when we talk with a new customer, a lot of times those things kind of just get financed in, and then those obviously make your payment bigger. And so through AgVision, we have the ability to waive a number of those different fees. And then we have specialized financing products that are only available to people that are young, beginning, and small. And this program, the why behind it is we understand deeply the barriers to entry in agriculture, especially as we look at, this is the Washington Food System Partnership. When we look at the market values of land that folks want to farm that also has got development pressure on it, the real estate values are through the roof. And we understand that increasingly people have to have off-farm income to help those properties cash flow, because the farms aren't earning enough of their own revenue to pay for that land, because these values are just so expensive, knowing that there's real estate developers and others that push those values up. And so for that reason, we offer this program and these specialized products to try to help mitigate some of those challenges that are things that that we can't control, but we can control these. So in AgVision, if you're a young, beginning, and small producer, we'll reduce your interest rate quite substantially, actually, and through just it's a benefit that we have with this program, trying to keep your payment as low as we can. We have what we call financial mentors. So we've got staff that are, their job title is a relationship manager, and they're dedicated to helping young, beginning, and small farmers. And the neat thing about that job role is they've worked with a lot of farmers, and they've worked with a lot of farmers in AgVision. So they've understood what works, who's done the different things that has made their operation last and be successful and sustain, cycles that these all go through. So we think that's a very important part, is the staffing focus that we have on AgVision. And then we also have flexible underwriting guidelines. We don't expect a balance sheet, for instance. Someone's, at the end of the day, their net worth is going to look, as a young farmer or a small farmer, is not going to look anything like somebody that's been farming for decades and been doing this for a long time. It's just completely different. And so for that reason, we are willing to flex on the underwriting guidelines as reducing another barrier to entry. We're a preferred lender of the Farm Service Agency, and that's helpful because it reduces the amount of paperwork that a customer is going to have to complete. Now, if we do like a joint financing scenario for those customers that are eligible for FSA 2, there is, still paperwork, but at the same time, they understand how we underwrite loans, and so there's less of it. And that's important, especially as they're looking to enhance ways that they can work with small farmers in different areas. I already talked a little bit about the Business Management Center. In particular, our AgVision program has 2 annual conferences for customers where, if you're young, beginning, and small, we get together as a group. We actually just did that in Boise about 2 weeks ago. And the networking that comes from that is just terrific, because they're kind of a lot of them in the same journey. And just to get to sit around the table and talk about your experiences and share ideas has got a ton of value. Our AgVision customers are also eligible for a education and technology expense reimbursement. So what that means is, we've got some different down payment assistance and things, but we know that costs a lot of money, for instance, just to have, equipment down payment or real estate in particular. And so if, I just got on my property and I'm just trying to, buy all the things I need to get my business together, and suddenly my computer dies, I might not have $1,000 to go and buy a computer. And we don't want that to be a barrier for our customers, because we know that they need to be able to manage their finances. And so we will reimburse them up to $1,000 for a technology expense. And it doesn't have to be a computer. Frequently it could be an internet booster or We've done down payment assistance on a drone that was kind of expensive for people. I mean, we look at operational technologies too. I provided one for an ostrich incubator not that long ago. So we're pretty generous on that. And then on the educational side, we offer up to $1,000 so people can go get education. There's a lot of really great conferences that take place in this country, and we want people to feel like if, it takes me a plane ticket to get to California to go see this really great conference, good. We want you to be able to go. And so we'll reimburse you up to $1,000 to do that. So we want to support education, as I mentioned. And then kind of the last big program with AgVision is this program called RateWise. And I'm going to share more information on that coming up. But basically, it's a dedicated program that's exclusive to AgVision customers that's based around education. And it's a way for you to take in new information and educate yourself as a business owner and a producer in order to reduce your interest rate on future loans. So I mentioned, we offer a number of different types of loans. And for those of you that maybe aren't as familiar with working with an ag lender, we offer short-term loans, which we would call an operating line of credit. And basically what that is, so kind of tying this all together, if you go out to our website and you look under the education section, under preparing financial statements, there's going to be an e-recording for 1 hour on preparing a cash flow budget. Okay, that's perfect for this type of a loan, because what we're going to do is, generally, let's just think about like a market gardener, farmer's market type producer. In the spring, you might look at the year ahead and all of your expenses that you're going to have. And you might realize that you're going to have a financial shortfall in the beginning because you've got higher inputs, right? You might have compost and seeds and all the different things you need to get your market in the ground, but you're not going to get paid for a while. So an operating line of credit can help you with some capital up front based on your cash flow budget that shows, how much money basically is it going to take to run your operation, and then how much money do you intend to earn from your crop over the course of the year. And then it shows the peaks and valleys throughout each month. That would be an operating line of credit. So it helps people in the beginning to get started. And then at the end of the year, when it's all said and done, obviously that operating line gets paid down. And then, you start all over the next year. Those are really common in agriculture, but it's surprising. A lot of people call and did not know that that is an option. The other type of loan we offer is called an intermediate term loan. And that's for things that maybe need to be financed over, say, 3 to 7 years. We try to pair up the capital need request, the loan request, with the item being financed and its lifespan. So an intermediate term loan is something like a piece of equipment that when you think about its useful life and when it, depreciates out over time, we would extend that just a little bit longer to make those payments sync up where they're not as expensive as, say, like a 1-year operating line of credit. But at the end of it, then that piece of equipment is paid off. And that could be for other capital needs too, but we most frequently see it for things like breeding livestock and equipment. And then we've got long-term loans. Those are your typical, real estate purchases, processing facilities, things like that. Now, as an ag lender, there needs to be a component of, in the ground farming production. So we need to establish eligibility with our customers that they're a bona fide farmer or rancher in order to fund anything that's like a facility per se that might not be something like a piece of farm ground. And then lastly, we have country home loans, and it's pretty neat. We've actually seen a fair amount of growth in our AgVision customer base through people that might buy a house that's on 5 or 10 acres, and they have an off-farm job and they're starting their farm part-time, and they really need their day job to help fund the startup of their farm. And a lot of times we run those through the country home loan program, and the end result, the experience to you as a borrower would be a lot similar to when maybe you bought the house that you live in today. The difference is that a lot of traditional banks don't necessarily like to finance houses on acreage, or maybe a house on acreage with an orchard. And that's kind of a specialty area for us, or a country home loan program. And AgVision can be used for any of these different types of loans. So I mentioned RateWise, and this is an educational incentive program that is really designed to help our customers thrive, because they have the education that they need to learn how to be good business owners, be better farmers through production-related classes, things like that. But at the same time, they're getting rewarded for taking those classes, because for every hour of content that you have that you take in, as a course, you earn up these credits. And that QR code that's on there, if you take a picture of it, it'll take you out to our website and you can register on there. And so the thing with RateWise that I think is really neat is that there's a lot of people that are signed up for this that are taking classes right now that don't have a loan with us, but they know that they're preparing to be in a position in the future where they will. And so they're planning ahead. We just, had a number of places in Montana where we were working with customers that we met at, meetings just like this one, where they signed up for RateWise. And then over the course of a year, they started going to classes and different programs and things that they would have probably done anyway. WSU's Cultivating Success program is a really good example. The Resilerator program with Northwest Ag Business Center. There's other ones too, but those are a couple of common ones that I see, along with the information that we share through our Business Management Center. So you accumulate these credits, you kind of, save them up in an account that I keep track of. And then when you're ready to make a purchase, you apply these credits to a new loan or an operating line of credit, and then you save even more money on your interest. So this is kind of a plan ahead type of program. But again, it's coupled with the fact that as an AgVision customer, those folks, regardless of participation in RateWise, they get a special pricing too. RateWise is just kind of like another level for those that really want to kind of double down and make sure the rate that they're getting is as low as they could possibly get it. So kind of rounding out the discussion, I wanted to close with an offering that is new. So for those of you that maybe didn't know, in January of this year, we merged with an organization in the farm credit system called AgWest's, and they operate, as I showed the map, in Arizona, Nevada, and California. And when we merged as an association, we looked at our AgVision program, and it's like there's this group that we want to offer a grant to that we know needs a leg up, that doesn't. They have a hard time getting going because going out and getting a loan isn't necessarily the right thing for them. But we know that if they got just a little bit of a capital boost, that they would be able to purchase something that made a really big difference in the startup of their farm. And so this was the first year that we offered this, and the grant cycle closed in August. And actually, we're going to be announcing those winners at the end of this week. And it's been so inspiring to see the stories that have come in through this grant. It's called the New Producer Grant, and on our website, we'll be updating that as we offer it again in 2024. But basically, it is 30 grants that we're offering at $15,000 each to help new producers. And so a new producer is defined as somebody who hasn't been farming commercially, at a level that they would deem as like a true business for more than 2 years. Or they plan to start farming in the next 2 years. And the idea is that, that window of people, they're not ready necessarily for full farm service agency financing. I mean, you could maybe get like a microloan with 1 year of experience with the FSA, but, a lot of people don't even know that FSA is an option for that. So they're trying to get going. And it's at this level where sometimes when we meet with a farmer and they talk about their journey and how they've handled their finances to try to get their farm started, they've gotten a little sideways because they've used financial, means to get started that maybe weren't aligned with what they were trying to get funded. And so then as the lender, we try to help kind of repackage that in a way that makes sense. Kind of like when I was talking about how to structure an operating line of credit that works for 1 year on your operating cycle, as opposed to, buying a piece of equipment that needs to be financed over a little bit longer term. So our job is helping new producers who don't know how that whole thing works to kind of get lined up in the right way that sets them up for success most. And the goal with this new producer grant is to try to meet those people earlier so we can help them, and then also kind of just establish some baseline things that they should be thinking about to be really ready to take the next steps. So through this process, when they apply, and like I said, we're going to offer it again next year, so it'll be on the website. But basically, once you know that you haven't been farming for more than 2 years on a commercial, established professional level, then you would apply for this. You would need to have a business plan. You need to have a cash flow budget. And there's an essay that we just, want to hear your story and understand how these funds are going to help you in your business. And so this grant asks for those things because we know that in order for our new farmers to be successful, they need to have a good business plan. They need to be able to do the SWOT analysis and think about what are their operation strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. How do they prepare a cash flow budget? How are they going to deal with, May, for instance, when maybe they've got a shortfall in their budget? Well, having gone through this grant process, they will have taken the cash flow budget e-recording that we offer for free, on demand, online, and they have a template, so they know how to start thinking that way. And so we're really excited to get to work with these producers, and just really personally, I'm grateful that our organization is offering this this year. So more to come on that, but that was a really kind of a cool ad that we have for AgVision and AgWest as an organization. This email address is a good one if you've got any follow-up questions for me. And then actually that QR code, it's might be kind of interesting if you wanted to know more about us. We were on an episode of a podcast called Rocks to Roots with the Spokane Conservation District. They do really great work on this side of the state. And it just talks a little bit more about, AgVision and AgWest Farm Credit and what we do and whatnot. So with that, be happy to take any questions. I'll go ahead and stop sharing too.
What is it? Oh, AgWest.
Is there a question?
I just missed the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Does somebody have their mic on?
I muted them. I think it was somebody.
Okay. All right. So if
And it
you
will
have-
be recorded. So if anybody who missed it, don't worry. We'll send
Yes.
out a recording and all the resources.
And that's great. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or at this point you could speak up or raise your little hand symbol, and we'll take any questions for Jesika now.
I'm just scrolling through the chat. I appreciate Emily, you and Marty both sharing information on these different programs, just to start to explore and learn a little bit more about them.
Well, you offered a great deal of information, and Adasha, you have a question? Put yourself off mute.
I do. I always have questions.
Ask away.
So many. One of them was about the eligibility requirements, especially as a beginning halal producer in Washington, specifically Snohomish County and Island County. We've been operating somewhat on a distribution level throughout the pandemic, and then now as a community-led organization, and now going more into commercial or just larger production than what we were doing. So I know that you are offering a lot of different services. So my question's around eligibility first. Is there someone to help you through that? Because I've been doing it for a while, but I don't know if I have 2 years of, what you're considering commercial experience. We've just now working on our cash flow and have appropriate accountants that can handle, social enterprise type of work So is there some help with that gearing up or pre-application process to see where you can qualify for different things?
Yeah, I mean, these are tough because you're right. I mean, we've got a young lady that applied, for instance, that, was working way more than full time and using that off farm income to get her business going. But, she's like, what's the level? Well, we don't want to get into a scenario where we're like, all right, well, send me your Schedule F tax returns and let us look. Like, we don't want to go there. We had so many applications. I was blown away how many people applied because it wasn't easy, right? You got to do a cash flow budget and a business plan. We kind of thought that people might say, oh, that's more time, and then they wanted to spend. But I'm just so thrilled to hear these stories. So what I would say is email that email address and we can take a peek and just have a conversation about your journey in this. We've got some people that, for instance, might have started an operation on their own, and then recently they've pivoted and they've brought on a partner and they're doing something different in a more, different type of business operation. And we said, well, it's new to them. They might have had this kind of small thing going on the side with a farm stand, but now they started a new business with someone else. Everybody's got a story to share. And so I can't just say carte blanche unless we were to say, well, send me your first Schedule F. And I don't want to do that either, because we've had people that are running really great businesses that maybe haven't done those yet. And we don't want to exclude them from this process. And we've learned a lot this year. So I hope that helps. That AgVision email address goes to me, so I will be the one to get it. And then just remind me that we chatted here today, and then we can visit more on that. I'm thinking that we'll have the grant going probably late first quarter, early second quarter next year. We offered it this year at a time with the merger, probably later in the year than I would have liked. We know that farmers are very busy in, the summer/early fall. So we'll be offering it earlier next year.
Adasha, you wanted to follow up? Go ahead and
Yeah, I guess I had questions. I know, but yeah, the second question was going from a nonprofit operation into a profit operation. Do you help? I know that a lot of these loan processes are normally for profit organizations, or are there opportunities for nonprofits as well?
We've written loans to nonprofits too.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Cheryl, you have a question?
Yeah, years ago, when we first started farming, a long time ago, we got an FSA loan as a new farm, and then we're told basically to graduate to farm credit. So you kind of had to go through a process of getting so many records and so on. And so it seems like this is a different now operation in terms of new farmers or beginning farmers being able to work with you directly. So my question is, what is the relationship now between you and FSA, and how does that work for growers at this point?
That's such a good question. So FSA is so complicated for folks, and it's changed over the years. You're right. And I'm grateful that the FSA is starting to think more about our urban farms. They're starting to there's a webinar going with the Farmer Veteran Coalition in Montana is doing an urban farm kind of info share with the Farm Service Agency, I think next week. I'm going to hit the recording because I can't make it. But anyway, it also unfortunately depends on the office that you get, because some offices have, kind of went on old school operation. And if you get somebody that comes in that's maybe, a smaller market gardener, they're like, they don't meet this rule called the proportionality rule, where they look at the level of debt or your monthly payments or your annual payments, and then they compare that to your farm income. And if they're not the same, then it doesn't chin that bar. But what I will tell you that the overall rule is that, per like the letter of things is if you went to a lender, two ag lenders, and you tried to get a loan and you got turned down at both of them, then those decline letters, you could take those to the Farm Service Agency and say, I tried to get a loan, on my own without you, and it didn't work. So can you help me? And then they do. They call them, that's the lender of first opportunity because they want to help you. Now, for those of you that don't know that Cheryl, maybe you already do, is that there's certain eligibility criteria with the farm service agency that you have to meet. For us, are you a farmer? Are you a bona fide farmer, right? Do you produce a thing? We don't have this number of years eligibility requirements. We finance first generation, first time farmers. They don't. They finance people that have farmed for a year or more. I say 1 year because you can get a microloan with them if you've been farming for 1 year. And those are great. If you don't need that much money, 50,000 or less, you can get an FSA express guarantee for 100,000 or less. If in those instances, that 1 year is just fine. And if you don't need much, that's a great option because their interest rates are very, very low. But other than that, if you need more, if you're going to buy, real estate, or you need more than that 50,000, for instance, then you have to have proof that you're a farmer, documented in a whole different type of way for 2 years if you're a veteran or have a college degree, or 3 years if you don't have either of those two things. And so those are the eligibility requirements with them. Now, this graduating to farming or to being financed, say, by an AgWest Farm Credit, once they start to look at your financial picture and they see that, boy, they've been farming for a long time, their income is good, they know how to manage their books, they get federal funding, right? They only get a certain pool of money. So if they're financing you, for instance, and you're doing really well, they kind of want to let you go because they want to free up that capital to be able to use it to somebody else that can't get financed elsewhere. So I guess in that way, there is a graduation process. The idea is that then when you come to us, you've got all this history of successfully running your business and making your payments so that you would be a natural fit for us. But keep in mind that there's what we call joint financing opportunities with FSA that are terrific. There's two programs in particular. One is the Beginning Farmer Down Payment Program, and that's used for real estate. Some people call it the 540, 550, and that's where the beginning farmer only has to put 5% down. We finance 50%, and then the farm service agency finances 45%. So your blended interest rate, your interest rate with us and your interest rate with FSA is a lot lower. Our interest rates are great. FSA is, as a USDA program, is even better. And then there's also a 50-50, where maybe if you're not, a designated beginning farmer, then we would finance 50% of the loan, and then FSA would finance the other 50%. And so there are times when we work together, and it's not just like a cut and dry, it's either FSA or us, it's a blend.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
It is. It's changing, and that's great. I mean, I'm glad that it's changing. One other quick question is that sometimes as a grower, when we were just starting out a long time ago, but we were not able. I mean, the good thing was FSA, we worked it out to make a yearly payment versus a monthly payment because of the crops that we're growing. And so some years we did not have a whole lot of money to pay our yearly payment because of different issues. And so what they did was re-amortize it and combine to try and keep us going. Is that something that AgWest does now, or works in conjunction with FSA if you have that? Or do you understand? Is that clear, my question?
And what I will say, and I don't mean to give you a generic answer, but literally every commodity, even within the same commodity, if we look at, for instance, like a grass-fed cattle operation versus one that isn't, and how those cash flows work with those two business operations, the way that money flows through those businesses is different, and then the timing of the payments would be different. And so without sitting down and analyzing your scenario, we couldn't answer that question. But what I will say is that we do understand agriculture, and better than a lot of folks do.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Feel free to speak up or post them in the chat. Also, Jessica, you got an invitation from Rebecca to do a presentation just like this at the San Juan Islands Agricultural Summit. in
Oh,
March of 2024.
okay, awesome. Well,
And-
Rebecca, maybe send me a note via email at that email address that was on there, or Marty, you can share my contact
Yeah.
info.
Yes, and I will send you, Jessica, the link to the proposals, where you submit a proposal for the
Okay.
summit as well. All right.
I
Nice.
have a,
I love networking that happens at these sessions. It's really one of my favorite parts of doing these. So it's wonderful. Emily, what you
yeah, I have a couple questions, but if anybody that's a participant has any, please feel free to jump in because I don't want to take anyone else's time. But I had so kind of maybe slightly unrelated questions, but I'm curious if you have any insight into a big thing we hear over and over again with new and beginning farmers is just the land access issue. Like young people, it's so expensive to buy farmland right now. And the income you make from farming is just really, often not enough to pay for the land itself. So it's that's probably, of course, we all know like the biggest issue with getting into it. So, and I know one thing I've heard recommended, like Poppy at the Resilierator at our last session, was one thing she said was do not purchase farmland on the MLS market. Like that was she was like, don't go on Zillow to look for farmland. It's going to be too expensive. You're going to pay a premium for it. And that's not, sustainable. So I guess what my question is if you've seen, just having worked with lots of different farms and financed lots of different farms, if you have any recommendations for where to go or how to find land that's not being sold on the MLS market.
Well, I mean, that's the $1 million question, Emily, that people across the country are asking, because
Right.
especially when we look at the influx of people that are moving to this beautiful place that we call home, and everybody wants to live here, it's just like supply and demand, right? So
Right.
those finding those little golden nuggets where you look on Onyx on your app and you find who, there's an app called Onyx that was designed for hunters back in the day, but it shows who owns land, and then people reach out and say, oh, so and so owns this, and it looks vacant. I mean, those are possible, but they're hard to do. I guess in a perfect world, we would be able to do that. But one thing that I think about that is the unsung heroes that I just have nothing but respect for is our land trusts. Those people are amazing because they're protecting ground forever, and they're taking development pressure or development rights off of ground, especially as we look at affirmative ag easements. And so what that, I don't know if you've had any of those folks. I mean, I'm sure Washington Farmland Trust has been on here, but we've been involved with a number of land purchases where it was either a buy, protect, sell scenario where the land trust bought the land, they put a conservation easement on it, it takes all that development value off, and then the beginning farmer was able to purchase it at ag value. And the thing that's beautiful about that is that ground is protected forever. It's never going to have housing on it. So I would say building a relationship with those people in your local communities, if I could wave a magic wand, I would love to see that we had an MLS or land trust that was like, go out here and these are properties we're working on, but those groups are going to continue to need to get funding. The USDA through their, programs through NRCS has got some matches, and the state of Washington is incredibly supportive, through the funding that they have to do the grant matches through NRCS. So that would be, another great resource. But I don't know, those are just a few ideas.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Jessica. I think that's exactly what I was looking for.
I mentioned Washington Farmland Trust because, they're pretty broad and they cover a lot of places, but there's a lot of great land trusts. I mean, we've got many more than I could say here, and they're all doing the same type of work. But those affirmative ag easements, because, there is people that want to buy conserved ground like that, and they want to have, their farm estate where they just don't want any neighbors, but they're not necessarily going to farm it. But the distinction here that I'm talking is the affirmative ag easement, where written in the language is, and that ground will be farmed. And that's the important difference too. It's just not going to fallow.
That's great. Thank you.
I see that there was a note on here in the chat from John. If we are a current AgWest customer, are we not eligible for the new producer grant? That was an incredibly hard decision to say that customers weren't eligible for the grant. We didn't take that lightly. There, kind of as I mentioned in introing the grant, it's designed for folks that debt isn't the right thing. And we're wanting to help those people that are at the very cusp of just getting started. And we know that if we were able to finance a customer, chances are their credit picture is a whole lot different than the candidates that apply for a grant that just genuinely can't get financing yet for a host of different reasons. And so at this time, customers are not eligible for the new producer grant. But that being said, that AgVision program that I mentioned, through all the different things that were in that list in my overview, has got huge value that, I would say is over time easily equivalent to the value of that grant too.
Are there other questions? I have one last question, but does anybody else? Okay, I'm just wanted to ask you, I know we've focused a lot on resources for beginning farmers through this AgVision program and the new producer grants. Is there anything you want to point people to specifically for farmers who have been working their farms for over 2 years?
Gosh, yeah, I mean, the grant is one of the levers, right? There's so many other things, but I would say that all of these different courses that are offered in our state are such a gift to producers, and most of them are free. Just to continue building up your education, to access those online education offerings that we have on our website. It seems so easy, but the people we have experienced that take advantage of those things are just so much more prepared to run their business, because a lot of us, we get into farming because we love it and we want to build community and grow good food and have, health and the lifestyle and all of that. And the last thing we want to do is sit down in the evening and run our financials and our cash flow budgets and get our receipts together. But if we don't understand where we're at financially, we might not be sustainable in the future. And our goal isn't just to start beginning farmers, it's to keep beginning farmers and to make it last. And so this is where it takes that discipline. And frequently it's just that repetitive education. How am I going to do my balance sheet? Having the discipline to sit down and do that every year, and then compare your year over year and say, all right, I've made some positive changes or not, and where can I fix it, etc. That type of thing. And then just connecting and networking with other farmers, because we're not in a silo, and the more that we can share, the better.
Thank you. And thank you so much for all this information, really rich and very helpful. And thank you to everybody who came today. I want to just, before we sign off, I want to tell you what we have coming up. We have Amanda Zakharov, who's on this call, who's going to present on October 31st. Hi, there you are, along with her colleague, Martin Lemos. I apologize for any mispronunciations on the names. And they are from Dirt Capital Partners. This is going to be about land access. So please come on October 31st, 12 o'clock. Watch for that in your emails, and or get on the website, www.fsp.org for that. And again, this will be the recording, and a Q&A sheet will be on our website in the Lunch and Learn library. The Q&A sheets that we have lots of resources that were mentioned in the presentation and some others. So those are a really good kind of place to look for information about many of the topics that we've had on our Lunch and Learns. All right. Thank you all and hope you have a great day. We'll see
And
you. we'll see you in a
before
couple-
everyone, so sorry, Marty,
Oh,
before
go
everyone
ahead.
signs off, I just want to remind them to take the survey for the Lunch and Learn. I
Yes.
just put the link in there. Just it helps us continue to have these presenters to report back to our grant funders on the work we're doing. So if you have a chance, please, it takes very little time. Click the link, take the survey, and we will be so grateful for your data. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You.
You want to stop the record?